Welcome to the Women of HubSpot podcast, the show that celebrates the voices shaping marketing, technology, and the ever-evolving HubSpot ecosystem. Hosted by George B. Thomas from Sidekick Strategies. Each episode brings you the stories, strategies, and superpowers of the women driving this industry forward. It's their time. It's their mic. This is Women of HubSpot.
All right, I'm super excited, but I'm also sitting here and I know this is going to be one heck of a journey. Meg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you, George?
I'm better now that you're here because without you, this would not even be any type of journey. But let me kind of give a little bit of background of why we're here for the people that might be tuning into this. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I was talking to my daughter. We are talking about the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles and his kind of behind the scenes team that is a female team. And I watched her face and I watched her body and I was like, this means a lot to her. And I was literally moved in that moment. And I put this LinkedIn post out and it was just supposed to be like, hey, if you know somebody that's a female and they're awesome at HubSpot, like tag him in this post. Meg, it by far is the most interacted with post I think I've ever done on LinkedIn in my life. And it brought me great joy to see this happening. And so I was like, you know what? I want to interview these amazing humans. I want to understand what makes them tick. I want to hear the journey that they've been on. And so today that's what we're going to do. So I've got some questions for you. And we're just going to see where we end with this. And so let's just dive in. Are you buckled up and ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. So here's the thing. If we could go back in time and we could meet the young Meg Duffy, just starting out, like what would we see and what would she be most surprised by about where she is now?
I describe it as kind of a wiggly noodle. I don't know about your experience with how you envisioned your career, but when I started out, I thought my career would be very linear. Both of my parents did like relatively the same things for most of their lives. And so I thought that that's what my path would look like. It does not. So I started my career in education. I did a lot of ESL and special education tutoring. Fun fact, I actually have a master's in library science, so technically I am a librarian. I started my career in nonprofit arts. I worked at the Metropolitan Opera organizing their production materials, and then I moved into the startup tech world. So I worked at a startup that made an app teaching kids how to code. I worked at a coding boot camp for women and non-binary folks in tech, and I eventually started my own career coaching business. Ultimately, I joined HubSpot because I love making stuff that helps people do their best work. I feel like that's the through line through that noodle. And working on a team allowed me to do that at scale. But I think if you go back to those early days, early in my career, I was just so scared. I was really scared about like all the stuff that I didn't know. I was very like concerned about how my work would be perceived. And I think over time, having built skills, having built experience, you build that confidence where you can root down into your work and have what you're producing actually be good enough.
So scared. By the way, we're in question one. I'm already like, this is so amazing. Librarian, opera. Like I'm learning so many cool things already. So here's the part of that question I want to make sure we answer. Like, what would she be most surprised by where you are at right now in your life?
I think from that initial fear space, she would be surprised that I am such a visible person now. I think when I first started out, I very much did not want to be the person in the front. I very much wanted to be just buried within the rest of the team. And over time, my work has pushed me to be more and more visible, to the point where now you can watch my face on HubSpot Academy all the time. But that was not my default setting when I first started out.
Oh, I love that you said it's not your default setting. One of the things I'd love to talk about is going beyond your default. And it's interesting to kind of think about, you were like, I don't know what your career looked like. Mine was a bowl of spaghetti as well, right? I've been a cook in the Navy. I've been a bouncer at a bar. I've been a pastor at a church, and I've been a HubSpot hero. Like, I mean, I didn't know I was headed here when I headed this way, but here we are. So along the way, there have been people who have been mentors who have kind of inspired me. So I'm curious, Meg, like, who are some of your biggest inspirations or mentors along the way, or that you pay attention to today?
One of the people that had the biggest impact on me was actually someone that I met as a kid. I feel like I still think about like my high school cross country coach all the time because I feel like he embodied the essence of good coaching, and I think it's something that I try to model in everything that I do. I think a lot of times when we say we need to treat people equally, it means that we treat people the same, when actually sometimes folks need nuance in that coaching. So, talking about in my early career, very nervous, very anxious. I'm not the type of person that you need to like get hyped and like have them meet the moment that way. I need to be calmed down and kind of like take the pressure off. And he had such a great way of recognizing what you needed in that moment and meeting you with that. And I think that's something that I've taken through my career. And I mean, I got that lesson as a kid. Also, I think like just having incredible managers, I feel really lucky to have gotten the support that I need at HubSpot to really come into my own in a way that I think served me where I was. I like management where I can come to you with questions and get answers, but also have the freedom and the trust to know that you trust in my ability to like execute my work and put my hand up when I need help. And I feel like being in that sweet spot has really allowed me to grow a lot in the past couple of years.
I love that trust, that you believe in me, that I can do the thing that I have to do. That's so amazing. So obviously this has been a journey, right? And I'm super curious, like, have there been any hurdles or biases over that you've kind of had to come over in your career? And if so, like, how did you navigate those times?
I think, especially since my work now and work as a coach, and previously, I've been making a lot of content. I've been putting a lot of stuff out there. And when I first started publishing work, I had a lot of perfectionist tendencies because I really wanted to control how that work was perceived. And from a very real perspective, the internet can be a rough place. And particularly as a woman in tech, you sometimes get a lot of feedback that is just someone's opinion. In the beginning, I took that really personally. The more practice I got releasing work, the better filter I was able to build around what's actionable feedback and what's somebody's own personal view. And recognizing that it's okay to set a boundary that says, hey, I'm not actually accepting feedback on this particular aspect of my work. I also learned that creative work is inherently uncomfortable. And for me, that's probably not going to change, And so I think I stopped wrestling with that anxiety and now I expect it, because when you are doing something new, there is no roadmap. There is no guarantee that it's going to work. There is no guarantee that it will be received well. For me, that discomfort dissipates a little bit once I have an outline. I always talk about how like when I can see the project and kind of see what form it's going to take. But I think just knowing when I'm in the pocket of that discomfort is progress.
The pocket of discomfort is progress. That right there is powerful. I also love that I heard you I had to set barriers. And then also when you mention opinions, it's like opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one. It doesn't mean we have to pay attention to it, right? So there's so much goodness in there. Meg, I'm super curious. Have you ever faced a moment where you felt kind of underestimated, overlooked, out of place in the industry? And if so, how did you handle that and kind of move forward past it?
I think for me, that moment happened earlier on when I was making the transition from nonprofit arts into tech. When I was at the Metropolitan Opera, I was kind of one of one. Like there was no path forward that was really obvious. Like that was just kind of the job, and you did the job and you could look around within the organization. But I think I was kind of butting up against the limitations of like what was possible within the system. And if I'm being honest, it's like I had a lot of conversations with like my boss and my boss's boss at that time. And we were all just kind of like, we want to go faster. You know, we want to automate more things. We want to systematize more things. And I think at that point, we were all kind of like pressing up against like the limitations of the organization at that point in time and like what we could do. It's been neat to see the directions we've all taken in our careers since then, because I think we've all taken different steps towards that goal of being able to move faster, of being able to break down those barriers between teams and get people to connect more. But yeah, it was tough at that time, feeling like I want to put my foot on the gas and I kind of have to go 25.
Yeah. And it's almost like because of that, it's like at some point that might have been a catalyst for the transition into the tech space to where you're at now, is like, I feel I need this thing. And so let me do this thing. It's so interesting. All right. So kind of a different angle at this. Have you had a time in your life where you've experienced what we'll call significant? It doesn't have to be massive, but we'll use the word significant, like a significant failure or what you felt was a setback in life. And if so, like, what did you learn from that?
In addition to like working at HubSpot, I've done the career coaching piece of things. And a couple years ago, I had this vision of like, you know, I really want to take what I do in one-on-one sessions and like turn it into a course. And I worked my butt off on this thing. Like I was like, all right, I'm scripting it, I'm filming it. And I kind of like, I ran out of gas by the end. So I like put up this course and did essentially like no marketing for it. And nobody bought that course in the first month. And it was funny because it was like such a disconnect between like, I had all this excitement and enthusiasm. And it's just like another reminder of like, unless you are explaining to people like why they should care, there's so much going on the internet that it's like, it's just going to get lost. I was bummed, no lie. I had higher expectations for the course at that time, but I think it also helped to take a step back and be like, from that very real acknowledgement of like, did I do the work to do the marketing? No, I did not do that. So it's like, you can't be mad if you didn't take it all the way across the line. I think it's something that can be tough on especially like personal projects, when it's like you're the only one that is accountable. It's like great to put things out when it's successful. It's also very challenging because when it fails, you are the creator and the CEO and the marketing department and all those things. So it's like, well, the buck stops literally with me because I'm the only one.
I love that it's like, listen, it was me. And if I didn't take it over the line, you know, I got to look inward. And what I really love is that we're actually on a chat about Women of HubSpot. And I totally took away a life lesson, is that marketing matters. Like, yeah. I should probably have marketed the thing that I put all of this energy into. So that's so fun. All right. So Meg, let's shift gears because I'm super curious. What does empowerment mean to you? And how do you pass that on to others in your field?
When I think about the work that I'm doing and the impact that I want to make just like in my life, like my personal goal is to be a person that takes actions on her ideas and also motivates other people to do the same. You know, when we're talking about creative work or just like being a person, like there's so much pressure, both internal and external, that keeps people from trying something new, putting it out there, taking that risk. And so for me, empowerment is about like hyping people in my circle up, supporting their ideas, connecting them with resources, helping them stay motivated to bring that idea to life, whatever it happens to be. You know, and I want to push myself to do that same thing. And that means surrounding myself with people who are going to do the same thing for me, you know, who will kind of give me that boost when I get tired. Yeah, it's just really scary putting new things out into the world. And so through that process of kind of practicing with myself, practicing with others, I want to stay connected to that feeling of how brave it is to put something new out into the world.
Connected to how brave it is, or how brave you are by putting that That is so good. All right, I want you to transport yourself somewhere for me. So
Okay.
like mentally go to this moment. And I want you to share a moment in your career where you felt especially empowered or very proud of something that you achieved. What's that thing? What's that moment?
Last year at Inbound, being able to run two Academy labs back to back was something that I've always wanted to do. And I think like last year was just a really busy, challenging year. So the fact that that opportunity came when I didn't necessarily feel ready and I rose to that challenge was something that felt amazing. You know, that HubSpot trusted me to do it, that I had the expertise to do it. Yeah, and just getting out there, speaking in person, very different than being on camera. But it was an incredible experience, and it felt like the culmination of all the stuff that I've been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, again, so amazing. The words I pull out of that is trust and expertise and the ability to rise up and do it, which totally can be translated to like, I had to step out of my comfort zone because it's something different than I typically do, but it feels great once I got to the other side of it. I love that. I love that so much. So obviously we're here on series Women of HubSpot. So I have to ask this question, Meg. If you could change one thing about how women are supported in this industry, what would that one thing be?
Like let women cook. Like let them cook. Like give them, like when we're talking about the trust element, trust that my ideas are solid and that I've backed them up with data and ideas, give them the resources that they need and just let them do stuff. That's it. That's the tweet. Like let women execute their best work.
Oh, I love that so much. Just like empower them to execute,
Yeah.
step back and let the magic happen. Mm, mm-mm. You know, Meg, a lot of magic happens in HubSpot. So I'm super curious. Are there any particular tools, strategies, trends in HubSpot or kind of the inbound ecosystem, if you will, that like super excites you right now?
So I am lucky that I get to work very closely with lots of our technical teams. You know, so I do a little bit of coding, but I'm not building full scale apps. I can't speak too much to what they're doing, but I think that like the stuff that our solutions architects and technical consultants and DevRel folks, like all of the people who are getting really deep into the technical weeds and showing folks how to customize based on their business model, based on these really niche use cases. Like that's stuff that I get really excited about. And I'm lucky that I'm in a role where I get to essentially interview them, you know, and consult with them on what they're working on. I feel like being adjacent to that space is something that really excites me. And there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that they're working on in the lead up to Inbound.
Which will be here before we know it. My
Truly.
goodness. It's crazy. Okay, so I want you to put the mentor hat on. Meg the mentor, if you will. How important is networking with other females to you? And maybe even just networking in general, but for sure with females. And what strategies do you use or do you suggest that others would use to build these connections? Because earlier you mentioned the circle around you, right? Which is your network. So talk me through that a little bit of like strategies, importance.
My strategy is if I see somebody doing something that I think is really cool, I want to talk to them about it, you know? And I have done that in my professional life. I've also done a lot of side projects. I've always been interested in writing. So like right out of college, I was interested in like graffiti and street art, ran a street art blog, talked to people in the art space about like what they were working on. Later on, started a blog called Lady Collective, and I was like interviewing people from all walks of life, just talking about their experience like navigating their 20s. Even as a career coach, you know, talking to people about different roles. And so I feel like that all accumulates over time in terms of the connections, but it has never been, I think it comes from a place of I'm curious about what you're doing and I would like to know more. And that has always led to interesting connections to me. So I would say for folks who are just starting out, especially if you don't have a clear path, like I certainly didn't, I didn't know how I was going to get here, but just keep talking to people that you think are doing interesting things and see how those conversations resonate with you, see how you can be a part of it, see how you can help folks, coming from this place of how can I help you, I think feels a lot better than, I don't know, some of the more transactional framing about networking that I've seen. It's really about like building a community of people that you want to support in addition to them supporting you.
Yeah, I am loving this conversation so much because I hear you talk about like let curiosity give you some direction in your connections, but in the effort of connecting, maybe have a heart of servanthood. Like it's more relational, less transactional is where my
Definitely.
brain goes when I hear you say that. It's so good. Okay, got a couple more questions. We're going to
Yeah.
start to land this plane a little bit, even though I could probably do this for forever. I mean, we got street art, librarian, opera, HubSpot, like career coach. My goodness. So, with that said, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your career?
Knowing that the impact that I've made on folks has taken their life in a different direction. Yeah, it like gets me emotional even just thinking about it. But that's really the through line, right? Like I still keep in touch with those high school kids who are now definitely not high school kids like their parents, but like meeting them at a vulnerable time in their lives and helping them through that journey. Talking to anybody that I worked at that boot camp who was able to transition from all walks of life into software development. Anytime I get a message on LinkedIn, through my email, like if you're staring at me on the screen, like know that anytime you post something on LinkedIn, anytime you make a comment about the certifications, like I see that. And it is incredible to just see people getting value out of something that I've made. That's like really the reason that I do this. It's like I'm not just making this content in a vacuum. I want it to be something that's valuable to you. And I want to keep doing that in everything that I do, in every way that I show up. I want to be able to help other people feel empowered.
Adding value to the world. And Meg, I call this the ripples. Like, I want to see the ripples that
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to put into the world, right?
Yeah.
So I know we're going to have a lot of folks that watch this that are in the HubSpot ecosystem, but listen, I didn't start in the HubSpot ecosystem. You didn't start in the HubSpot ecosystem. So bet your bottom dollar, somebody will find this on the interwebs. They'll be watching it. They'll have zero clue about HubSpot or the tech space. What advice would you give to other women who might want to choose this as their future career path?
Shameless plug for HubSpot Academy. Like, yeah, definitely check out that content. I mean, I think like there's so much value, and like just the stories that we get to hear on a regular basis are incredible about people like finding the tool set, and like you can go really deep. And I've known so many folks who have started off by getting a foot in the door in sales or getting a foot in the door in support, and then being in an environment where they are professionally supported to transition into other parts of the business, people who've become developers, people who've moved into marketing. And so I'd say like definitely start with that education, start with meeting folks in the community, and then work your way up from there. Like there's so much to learn. I've been here for 4 years, and it's like astonishing how much I still don't know, but that's really exciting. Like there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, and when you think you've learned it all, HubSpot releases a product update, and then you get to
Right.
learn it all over again. I love it
200
so much.
features. Let's go.
It's like, come on. Oh, so here's a fun one for you. What are your long-term goals?
I can't speak to all of my long-term goals. I should probably think about that a little bit more. But one goal that I have been focused on this year is it's less a goal and more of a theme, but the theme of like attention. And I'm really paying attention to where my attention goes, and how I'm spending my time, where I want to put that energy, and kind of putting this like lens of creativity on top of that, to think about, okay, how do I need to focus my attention to unlock more of my creativity from less of like a productivity angle and more of just like, I just want to create more space and see what comes up from that space. Does that make sense?
It does. It actually it resonates a lot, to be honest with you. So we've learned so much about you, by the way, along the way, but I still want to ask this question because I feel like there's more. I want to, as my friend Tamsin Webster would say, I want to pull the red thread on this one right here. What's a surprising or little known fact about you that people just might not expect?
People who work with me are going to be like, yeah, obviously this is all you talk about. But I'm kind of an indoor cat when it comes to being on the internet. Like I don't share a ton of myself on LinkedIn. But as I said, like I ran cross country in high school, didn't run in college, kind of did my own thing. But I've been like doing distance running for most of my life. And my fun fact is that I have finished the 6 world majors, including the Boston Marathon.
That's a lot.
A lot of time on feet.
Yeah, for sure. Better have some good shoes. I'm just saying.
I'm due for an upgrade. I'll tell you that.
All right, Meg. Last question. Well, second to last question, because I want people to know where they can connect with you if they want to learn more, have a conversation, or ask you a question based on something that maybe you shared today. But finish this sentence for me. Success to me means
unlocking greatness in others.
Boom. That, like, period. That's it. That's the sense. Meg, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to carry on a conversation, if they are like, I want Meg to be my mentor, where do you want to send them?
Yeah, so the best place is to find me on LinkedIn. If you search Meg Duffy and find a picture with a blue background that looks like me. I think the full handle is Megan R. Duffy with an H, Megan with an H.